with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a scholar of the law, tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In our Catholic liturgy, the first reading and the Gospel are always somehow connected to one another. Today's Gospel, of course, is the great command of love. But when we go back to the first reading, we discover it is about loving not the people who will love us back in return, but the unlovables. The first reading talks about loving the aliens, loving the orphan, loving the widow. There was a story in the New York Times about 2 weeks ago about two young brothers, ages 6 and 8. They live in a little village in Honduras with their grandmother. Their mother is a legal immigrant here in the United States, living and working in northern New Jersey and sending money back to support them. According to the story, they were awakened in the middle of the night by two gang members who had machetes. And they told these kids, 6 and 8 years old, "If you don't join the gang tomorrow, we'll come back tomorrow night and slit your throats." After the two left, the two boys got up, got dressed, kissed their grandmother goodbye, and walked with nothing but the clothes on their back from Honduras all the way through Mexico to the American border. They are now reunited with their mother in New Jersey. However, the school district refuses to enroll them because they don't have proper documentation. I had a funeral a week ago yesterday at St. Jude's. It was one of the most incredible celebrations of life that I've ever had privilege to experience. This woman was a very strong personality, and she shaped the lives of her 10 children and her 41 grandchildren. They're an incredibly athletic family, into every imaginable sport. One of her grandsons just shattered a football record at Cathedral Prep. 3 of her granddaughters led Villa Maria Academy this past week to win the state golf championship. St. Jude's was filled. There were 5 priests on the altar, her 10 children, her 41 grandchildren. But what was most amazing to we priests were those grandchildren. They're all in high school and college. A few of them are already married. One of her grandsons was the cantor and lifted the whole congregation with his voice. At communion, 5 of those grandchildren, 5 of them, came up into the sanctuary because they are Eucharistic ministers. After communion, all 41 grandchildren took a long-stemmed red rose, put it in a vase in front of the statue of Mary, and then together sang the Ave Maria in memory of their grandmother. As I reflected on it later, I realized that the genius of this woman was that she managed to teach her children and her children's children to be as comfortable on the football field, on the golf course, on the basketball court, as they are in the sanctuary of the Lord. My God, if we could teach our children that, we would suddenly have a world filled with people who love the unlovable, and we would finally have peace on earth. Amen.